What's up everyone? In this video, I'm going to be explaining the previous week's range report by open. So I'm going to be talking about this variant right here, not the standard one. So this is in the price action report type. It's the previous week's range and then the by open variant. Right now we're looking at SPY in the trailing 1 year. So here, this is the SPY chart. We're looking at the previous week's range indicator. You can find that right here, and you can also request that by scrolling down and clicking this button. All you have to do is type in your TradingView username right here, and you can find that. Whatever it is right here, you just take this and punch it in to this text box here. In this case, mine is edgeful. So the buy open, which we're going to have a TradingView indicator for this specifically, but the buy open checks for every time. So what we need to do first here is look at the middle of the previous week's range. So what I did was I just clicked on this measure tool. I went from the previous week's high to the previous week's low, and then I just clicked, and right here is the exact middle of the previous week's range. So I'm just going to put a line right there. So now you can see that is the previous week's middle. I just made that yellow. And you can see that what this report looks at is for this area here, these blue boxes, is for when we've opened above the middle of the previous week, and then down here is from when we opened below the middle of the previous week. So in this case, obviously, we opened above. This is this week here. To the right of this blue line is this week. To the left of the blue line is last week. This green line is last week's high. This red line is last week's low. So obviously, we opened right here above the middle. So you can see that for every time we've opened above the middle, 76% of the time in the last year, we have touched the previous week's high. So we have touched this area, which we clearly did yesterday and again today. So targeting the previous week's high when we open above it, whether we open down here, targeting the previous week's high, it happens 76% of the time. Now, importantly, it is very unlikely for us to touch the previous week's low when we open above this area. So it's very unlikely for this to happen because it opens to the top half of the range. Then, very importantly, touch the previous week's high and the low, which would mean that this would happen within this week specifically. So this would be before Friday. Right now it's Tuesday. Before Friday, we would touch the high and the low, and that has happened 2% of the time in the last year. So not something that you want to target. So as soon as this week's high gets touched, you do not want to be targeting this low. And then, which is also almost equally as unlikely, is not touching either side. So you can see stayed inside previous week's high and low, which would mean, hypothetically, let's ignore this price action right here. That would mean that price did this for the entire week, which is obviously very unlikely because that has only happened 8% of the time. So you should expect price to touch either this high or this low. Now, everything still applies for this down here. This just filters for the times where we've opened below the middle of the week. So let's just invert this chart quickly. So let's pretend that we open below the middle of the week. You can see that we've only touched the previous week's high here 26% of the time when we open down here. So you do not want to be targeting this previous week's high when we open this area. We've touched the previous week's low 47% of the time when we've opened here. So not very strong data here in either direction. The stronger data is up here for SPY because what it shows is 76% of the time we're going to touch a level. This is actually not very strong here. Then again, another one that's very important is touch the previous week's high and low. So only happen 10% of the time. Very unlikely that we're going to go like this and then go like that. Extremely unlikely. So you do not want to bank on touching both sides. And then also a little bit more often than here, but still extremely rare for us to stay within previous week's range this week. So you want to expect price to touch either the high or the low, at least one. And that is how you can use this report. The by open variant just splits out all the weeks that opened in this area versus this area. The standard report shows you, regardless of where we opened, it's just do we touch the previous week's high or low, and both and neither. So if you have any questions, there's an explainer graph right here. There's some text here. Remember that you can request TradingView indicators right here, and then the explainer video, which I'm making right now, will be right here. And then if you have any questions, reach out to our support, please, and we will make sure to get that answered immediately. Yeah, thank you for watching. I hope this is helpful.